I'm Jessica Patterson of Spinning Shadows Fiber Arts, and if you have been following me, I hinted that I would be doing a video on weaving without a loom. And to do that, I'm using items that I bought from the dollar store, well, the $1.20 store now, and some household furniture, along with my hand-spun yarn. So, these items here that I'm holding in my hands are a pack of 3 rulers, which are going to come in really handy, a roll of twine, baker's twine, and a pair of knitting needles. I actually bought 2 pairs of these knitting needles, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So all of this is all I'm going to use for this method of weaving. You may have seen, if you do any research on weaving, people in Asian nations or Mexico and stuff, they use a method of weaving that is either it's usually called backstrap weaving. And this is a version of that. I'm basically just going to be using a bunch of sticks and string to create my weaving setup. And so, with a little bit of preparation, which I'm going to show you, we're going to get that done. And I'll take you step by step. So stay tuned. Okay, now we're ready. I've got everything unpackaged, which would have been a minute of boring, ripping plastic off of things. And I'm going to start by taking one of my knitting needles, and I'm going to secure it to this chair here using baker's twine. And that will be the top of my loom. So, let's see. I'm going to think about this for just a moment, because I don't want it to just go slipping down. Let's see. All right, so I think I'm going to secure it there. Drop the twine right there and see if I have enough length to do that with. Okay, so I'm going to get that. Oh, and also you'll need a pair of scissors. I'm going to clip it. And just to save myself a little bit of time, I'm going to pull that off and do it again. I love the cheery yellow of this twine. It's very springy. So, there we go. Just to save myself a little bit of time, I'm just going to do approximately the same length so I can quickly tie it to the other chair and save myself a lot of random chatter about nothing while I'm trying to get this done. So I'm going to secure it again, like so. See how that works. And tie it. Now, as a note, for anybody who may be wondering, I have never actually tried this setup before. I've done something somewhat similar, but this will be, you're watching me do this without any prior, not really any significant experience. So, like, this is me doing this off the cuff. So I've got it just tied with a bit of a bow there. And I'm going to do it not quite so close to the end on this side because I'm a little concerned about it slipping off that point. So, let's see. Alright. There we go. Not tied. Alright. Gonna leave that one there. And then I'm gonna come around to the other chair and do the same thing. And this will be basically the bottom of my loom. If I were doing a true back strap, this would actually be, this bar would be tied around my waist or my back, or under my back side. But my back is a little sore from painting, so this is a much better option. I have a little more control over it this way, and yeah, a little bit less stress. So, just another way of doing it. I believe there's like a medieval type of weaving where it's basically just two posts and you're doing a band in between them, but that I would have to do more research to tell you for sure if that was, I think that's something they did, which is cool. So, you know, whatever you can do to get her done. Okay, that's not wanting to stay, just a moment. So, can you believe I used to knit with these kind of needles all the time? And now I just use them for rolling off roll legs on the blending board, unless they're packed somewhere that I don't know, which sucks. Let's see here. Come on, I don't want to have to retry this. Huzzah! Finished. All right. So there is the bottom of my loom. So in order to string the warp, first thing I want to do is I want to take one of my pretty rulers, and I want my project to be a yard long. So a yard's 3 feet. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to secure it, go down to the bottom, wrap up, and down again. So that's going to be my yard warp right there. Oh, well, the guide for it. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to try to think about this a little more rationally. Yeah. I'm going to take my baker's twine. See, I'm doing this off the cuff, so we're going to have to deal with all the awkward moments I come up with as I'm doing it. So I'm going to take this, measure it out approximately, and add, for tying, I'm going to add a couple of inches. And cut this off right there. Put my pretty yarn back and measure out another length. So this is something I briefly thought about and then forgot up until that point, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? So I cut off 2 lengths of my baker's twine, and I'm going to use them to create the sides of my loom so that I have a measurement to wind out my warp. Now, if we really wanted to do this the very old-fangled way, I'd stick my knitting needles in the ground out in the grass and measure it out from there. But the grass is soaked, and I don't want to ruin my knitting needles. So I'm going to tie this on using the same very fancy tying method of a one-sided bow. Let's see here. There we go. On that side, just put it next to the warp string. All right, and then I'm going to come over to this side and tie it. Now I may end up with less than a yard, considering that tying takes away from the length, but I really don't care. So. And that knot ended up without a bow, but that's okay. So I'll do it to the other side. You can already see that's starting to add a little bit of structure here. And let's see. If I can see past my own fingers, that would be great. Oh, whatever. Okay. And this is all just going to be approximate because, hey, what weaving is perfect? And with that. Just gonna tie that, re-secure my knot over here, just because that's annoying. There we go. Do that there. There we go. All right, so this is basically the frame for my loom. So, well, my weaving. I'm gonna move this chair out and add tension. Pull these two sides up now, so that it's a nice, this is a really nice height for me to warp. You could probably also do this, you know, measure out warps this way for any weaving if you don't have a warping board. I just thought about that. That would be really cool. So, okay, now we're pretty tense. Nobody breathe. And now I'm gonna warp. So I'm gonna take this side and tie it on. Just simply. So, let's see. Never leave myself enough length to do a proper bow. I like to be able to just pull it and untie it, so there we go. All right. And I'm gonna pick up the ball here and go under. Come back. And let's see, do I want to go? I'll go under here. Let's back up and down. So that'll give me a little bit of a separation here. So down, not pulling too tightly on this. Back up. And down. And there is my warp. Like you can see, it's acting a little drunk. I don't know what it has had today, but it's drunk. As long as nothing gives up, we'll be doing good. So I'm going to keep doing this for a little bit while my cameraman sets up the camera again, or keeps holding it. And we'll come right back with setting up for the weaving. So, wish me luck. This is going to take a while. Hey, we're still in the middle of warping. I had to make a couple of adjustments, which I wanted to share with you. We actually went around the top of the chair here to square this off, because the knitting needles were the lines were coming in on the knitting needles, and while I was warping it was doing a fishy dance. So I readjusted this to go around more squarely and retied, and so now I'm putting on a different color in the warp. These are both from the same kit, from the January Napa Valley Fiber kit. And this one I showed spinning on, some of the spinning. But anyway, this was my blending yarn. And this I didn't show on video. I took it and I used it to learn how to spin on one of my new supported spindles. And so I just dug it up out of my project bag where I left it after it was finished to add to the end of this weaving, to add a bit of something eye-catching on the end. Also, I think it'll be really pretty with my weft yarn. So that's what we're doing right now. And it's taking me a couple of minutes to wind because, you know, winding a warp is a long process. But you can already see from the warp being this close together, you can see sort of what the finished fabric will look like. It's going to be really pretty and well worth the effort. I'm super excited about this. I love weaving, and so being able to weave anything while my loom is in storage is just a big yay for me. So if I can be creative and figure out something that's fun like this, you know, I love it and I love to share it too. So, and I'm spending a lot of time fiddling. This warp is not going to be perfectly even. Usually, you know, when you're warping on a warping board, if you're a regular weaver, or you do it regularly and you have all the tools, you try to get all the warp to be really even tension. But since I was dealing with really wiggly knitting needles trying to do some sort of fishy dance, the tension is a little bit off. So, you know, it's not perfect, but that's okay. So, I'm gonna, you know, work with it as best I can. There's a little bit I can do to fix some of the tension so that it comes out without some weird floating threads, but I'm not gonna worry about it too much until I have the warp fully wound. So, and as you can see, that's almost done. While I've been talking, the ball is rapidly shrinking, and yeah, this string on the side is sort of wiggly now. That means it's probably shifted just a hair, but anyway, that happens. Let's see, can I make it? Can I make it to the end? Yes, okay. It's always fun when you get to the end of a ball and it's like, am I going to make it all the way over there? And usually on my warp, it's like I get halfway down through a 2-yard warp and it's like, nope, we're done, we're out of yarn. So I have to go all the way back and pick up another ball or something. So anyway, here's the end of the warp, all done. So I really like how striking that blue is. That is just fun. I can also see that the end of my warp of purple is hanging there like nobody's business. So I'll see if I can't tighten that up a bit. Maybe, we'll see. It'll all sort of come together. So we're gonna get ready for next up. I'm going to take one of these and come alongside my knitting needle here, since this is a nice open space here, and turn it on and make sure it's clear, we don't have anything twisted. And then I'm going to let my cameraman get set up, and I'm going to show you how we're going to create the weaving shed, as we call it. Be right back. Alrighty, welcome back. Now, you're going to see what that second set of knitting needles is for. I've got the end of the roll of baker's twine tied on. I have not cut it off yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this through that opening created by our, and knock it down, by the ruler here. I'm going to slide it through all the way and bring it out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down and pull up a loop and actually rethink this slightly. I'm going to slide this down a bit. That's a lot of thread. And bring it around the point here. And I'm going to do it again here. And here. So I'm basically going to go along each warp thread and loop it around my knitting needle. And what this is doing is it's basically creating a heddle, a string heddle. And this is what is going to let me lift these warp threads freely. And I'll show you. in a bit, but I'm just going to go along the whole length here until I've picked up every warp thread on this side. And yeah, so this is this is a tedious part, but this makes my life easier. I mean, I could do like they do with they sell those kits in Walmart and stuff of like for tapestry weaving, and you have a pointy stick to lift up the warp threads. But that's even slower and more prone to catching the wrong threads. And I've had the joy of weaving on a rigid heddle loom and a regular floor loom, and the thought of spending a lot of time picking up individual warp threads really does not thrill me. You know, doing it over and over and over again. So yeah, I prefer this instead. A little more time spent in setup saves a lot of headache during weaving later, and it saves on mistakes too. Because if I take the time to set this up ahead, then you know, there's less chance of me skipping threads and creating some really weird mistakes later on with my warp. Let's see, let's scoot that down a little more. So anyway, just saying, if you ever get a floor loom, it is, it takes time to set up. Even a rigid heddle takes time to set up the warp, but it's time well spent. You know, it's a good time to listen to some music or a book, or you know, just think. I may be the odd one out, but I actually do like warping. It's a nice, peaceful time for me just to be working with my loom. And I actually like it just about as much as I like the process of weaving. So, but a lot of people don't like warping, so I may just be the odd one, which is fine. I really don't care. But let's see, we're almost to the end here. Yay! And so far, I have not gotten 2 threads in the warp, or in the heddle here. I'm gonna have to loosen this up a bit somehow, but I'm trying to get to the end first. Would help if my spool hadn't fallen down. Everything is falling down, falling down, falling down. Here we go. It also is a great time to come up with random songs to annoy your husband with. Not that I ever do that to him. Never. At all. Especially not if he's doing something else. I don't. I actually sing nice songs for him, but it's fun to tease him all the time too. I guess it's what makes our marriage work. Let's see. Okay, so now to loosen it up so that I actually have some play in these heddles and not just, because I need to be able to lift the other set of heddles that I'm about to make, and I'm going to show you. But this is a tedious part. I don't want it to be so close. Yeah, I don't want that to be so close either. Let's see. This is a lot of warp threads actually for this, but I think the end result is going to be beautiful. It's well worth the... Oh, there goes my ruler. Thank you, cameraman. I don't actually need it right now, but thank you. My cameraman is the best. He is so helpful and so supportive of this. I know there are probably fiber artists out there who are just like, feel like they're the only ones doing what they love. But I really am blessed. I have my cameraman, my husband, who is learning and improving his camera handling skills. And then I have my mascot who loves to sit through the videos, and my mom, who just is basically the one who is the behind the scenes support of Spinning Shadows. And she's the one who comes up with ideas like, hey, this is something we need to do a video on, or wouldn't this be interesting? What about this question that needs to be answered? And she's also the one I go to, like, if there's a kit or a fiber or something, you know, what do you think of this? And we talk about it, and she's really the one that encourages, you know, when we do the unboxings. She helps me decide what spindles to do next, and you know, just recently she asked me, okay, what spindle is next on the list? And I told her, and we ended up purchasing it. So she really is the one that is the backbone of Spinning Shadows. So I really just appreciate it. And also, these heddles really aren't behaving right now, and that's okay. We will deal with that later. Okay, I'll figure that out. But to facilitate us moving on with this video, I'm going to show you what comes next. So I've got this, and I actually do need that thing now. Thank you for picking it up, dear. And I'm going to set it here. And this is going to be our first shed. So I'm going to keep it flat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another ruler. This is why I bought a 3-pack. And I'm going to go in between these threads here and pick up one. And put the ruler there. Pick and go one over and down and pick up one. One over and pick up one. And repeat. You know, and tuck them onto the ruler. So basically, I'm creating the second shed here. So always going one over on top to pick up one on the bottom. This is also, you know, the way that you would create a warping cross. I'm just doing it post-warp now. So there we go. The only thing I don't like about these rulers is they're a little bit flimsy. I would prefer a little bit of a more sturdy ruler, but the only other one they had there was a metal ruler, and I'm not sure that that would, I don't know if that would cut my warp yarns instead of doing what I want. So the plastic is what we went for. So anyway, let's see here. Okay, that one's next. All right, just trying not to get any of my warp threads tangled here. That would suck, because when they get tangled, it makes things just slightly more difficult. It's not impossible. I have actually woven with a totally tangled warp, and the biggest problem was that it created some warp threads that were loose, They were much looser than the than others, and yeah, and some were really, really tight, but in the end, the fabric turned out. But as a note, it does make life easier if they're not a tangled mess. So a little bit of patience goes a long way. And as you can see, ta-da! We have the second shed now ready to go. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did on this one. I'm going to go through with a knitting needle and my baker's twine, and I'm going to pick up the heddles. And I'm going to try and loosen this one up a bit, but that may take me a lot more time of fiddling than I'm willing to expend on the screen, wasting your time. So we will be right back with the heddles set up and ready to go. Alrighty, welcome back. I have threaded the heddles basically, and for this second knitting needle, which you may, if you try this, you may want to do it this way. I purposefully made the heddles longer, these loops, so that there's more room for the warp yarns to move. And it took a little bit of finagling, but I found out that this back row will still work even though it's very short, but it just takes a little bit of maneuvering. So basically what these will do is they'll lift, well, when I don't have these in here, they will lift the set of warp threads that they're attached to, and I'm able to slide in a ruler to open up that. And I'm going to show you how that works here in just a moment. This is going to be my first pick, basically, my first set of warp yarns. And this was created using this here. I'm going to take this ruler and wedge it up, just like I did when I made the heddles, and open up this shed here. And from here, I'm going to start weaving. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the scrap yarn and I'm going to give myself a place to start. So I'm going to take it, put both my hands through. There we go. Since I'm doing this with no weaving tools whatsoever, so I don't have the benefit of a shuttle. So, yeah. Let's open up this warp all the way down. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. It's gonna be a little sticky because this is hand spun wool. So, just use my fingers to open that up. Just a hair. There we go, perfect. And now I'll put my string through. There we go, that works. And I'm gonna measure out, I want about that much fringe right there. So that's about 2 inches maybe. And so I'm gonna like beat that into place, take that out. Now I'm gonna bring my other ruler, as soon as I bump my needles back into position. Back, darn you, back. I'm gonna bring my other, my other ruler here. Now, as a note, when you're working with hand spun thread, the fuzzier it is, the more it catches. So both of these yarns are pretty freaking fuzzy. But this one more so because it was spun, supported, and very airy, so it's gonna be snaggalicious here. So just a little more patience required for this kind of weaving with this kind of yarn, but not anything I'm not used to. I actually trust my hand spun in weaving a lot more than I trust commercial spun yarns, especially wool, because I bought some commercial spun wool to weave with because I wanted something convenient for warp, and it was a friggin' nightmare. Okay, so I got that pushed all the way down here, and now you get to see my actual warp thread. Weft thread, sorry. Vertical is warp, horizontal is weft. So which there it is. And I'm going to somehow, without losing my ruler here, back that up a little bit. I'm gonna squeeze this ball of yarn through. This is the only sucky part about not having a shuttle, is that's a little bit ridiculous. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of a tail to tuck in, and I'm going to, let's see, just fuss with it a little bit, and then I'm gonna just pull that out. Move my ball there. I'm gonna come here and think about it for a moment and open up a new shed. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up with these heddles and then hopefully not lose my ball of yarn. I'm gonna use the corner of this to come underneath and open up the shed here, if I can. Let's see. It may work better if I spread out the heddles a little. Now this method of weaving is going to be, obviously, it's going to be slower than if you're using a loom, of any sort. Let's see, let me create some distance between these. If you use a rigid heddle loom or a floor loom or whatever, this is going to be slower. But as you can see, I just reached under there and I just sort of grabbed and pulled, and that actually worked to pull away the other warp threads, most of them. And I'll just slide my ruler through there and try not to catch any of the oh yeah, thank you, cameraman. There we go. So if you can look through there, we now have a clean shed. You can see that it's open and there's no threads that belong to this one back there. So I'm gonna let that down now, and I'm gonna walk this back. A little bit slow. I'm not used to this kind of weaving. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but this is all just dollar store stuff and I want to weave, so yeah. Just okay. A lot of finger manipulation of threads here, and I'm gonna go in and try and pack that one thread down further using the edge of my ruler. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Or I might just end up with a longer fringe than I expected. That's okay. So we're gonna go all the way down there. It doesn't want to go any further, so I would rather not tempt it. I'm just gonna come back a bit and open up that shed and pass the ball of yarn through again. Oop. Like so. And put that back in place. I'm gonna bring the yarn down, and this is when I can decide what the width will be. Actually, these first three picks, as they're called, will, oh, there we go, now it packs into place. These first three picks will determine the width of my weaving. So the exact width, because as you can see, here's the corner here, and I'm about to wrap it around when I go through again, and that will solidify the weaving. And I don't mind that I have about an inch more of end there than I intended. So now I'm going to take my ruler out, and I'm going to come to the back, and I'm going to use these back heddles. Just do it again. Just reach underneath and sort of pull away the ones that aren't attached to this. And I'm gonna try and get that free so I can come in front of the longer heddles. Let's see. And open up that second shed. So just like so. There we go. Very good. Okay, so now I can go in with my ruler and let's see. Pick. So actually having it at this height is very handy because I can see where there are heddles, and that helps me figure out where the next warp is. Let's see here. Oop. That one. And that, and that, and that, and that. There we go. All through. Okay. Awesome sauce. So I am actually honestly surprised this is working as well as it is. When I looped through my first heddle rod here and had the heddles turn out so short, I was like, oh no, this is not going to turn out and I'm going to have to scrap all this footage. But hooray, it's actually working. So, and I may have a couple of threads here that don't belong. So, before I move on, thank you, cameraman. Let me throw that one. Okay. Before I move on, let us make sure I'm seeing. Let's see. Yes, vicious dog. I can see a problem here. Right here in the purple, you can see there are way too many threads. So that one doesn't belong, and that one doesn't belong. And let's see. Oh wait. Yeah, this one belongs down. Actually, let's see. That one belongs down. This one belongs up. Down, up. Up, 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 up. Okay, good. So you can tell on the second pick, when you're using this heddle, or at least I can tell, that if there's a string on top that has this heddle on it, it doesn't belong. You can also tell because there would be way too many warp threads up here. Another way you can tell something's gone screwy is when you get all down to the end here, and there's a thread on top that should be on bottom. So it's easy enough to go back and with a warp this short to fix that. You know, that's the wonder of this kind of weaving, is it's easy to fix mistakes if you picked up a thread that doesn't belong. So anyway. And we have all our threads in place. Yay, hooray. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a beat there, using the edge of my ruler just to mash the warp so that it's ready for the weft. Let's see here. I'm gonna push this back a little further to be able to pass the bulb yarn through. There we go. Boop. It's a little bit awkward because I'm not using a shuttle, but that's okay. I was expecting this to be a little bit different. And now I will try and pack that there. And that is basically it. You can come here and see that we have 3 lines of weft thread here, and that's going to create the structure of our weaving. And the weft is actually disappearing into the warp a little bit because the warp is so much thicker and the weft is basically thread. So this is going to be so beautiful when it's finished. I can't wait to show you. I will come back with another video later on to show you the finished weaving, because I can already tell that this is going to take me a while. You know, I've done 3 picks, and that's about 1/3 to 1/2 of an inch, and it's taking me a little bit of time. You know, I gotta pick the warp threads and make, you know, work that ruler down. So I'm not gonna spend too much time here just weaving and right now. I hope that this demonstration has inspired you to give it a try. There are certainly kits online for a more proper setup. They cost more, obviously. I spent, what, $5 maybe on getting the knitting needles, the twine, and the rulers. And then the rest is just my hand spun yarn and some furniture and a pair of scissors. But if you want to give this kind of weaving a try, I definitely recommend you go just look up backstrap weaving, or I'll try and leave a link in the description below to some kits that you can pick up. I think handywoman.com carries some kits, and Harvest Looms on Etsy carries kits as well. So yeah, I hope this has inspired you. This has definitely been a different experience for me. Thank you for following through with all of the awkwardness of the setup. And I hope you've learned something. I have definitely learned something here. And it's just being able to weave a piece of fabric without a loom is, I think, a skill that is valuable to have if you have the patience to pull it off, which I'm sure some of my viewers do have, and I do recommend you give it a try. So with that in hand, I'm gonna sign off for now. I'm gonna finish this weaving, and I'll come back later and I'll show you the finished fabric and what I'm gonna do with it. Until then, hit that like button if you liked this video. Hit subscribe. We always appreciate new subscribers. Tell your friends about this channel. And leave a comment letting me know what you think. And I love to hear about your own adventures in fiber arts. So, with that, have a great day, and thank you.